I realize that I am guilty. And that's what happens when you have unresolved issues with the Lord. It's always before you. My sin is always before me. You see, it's not something that can be swept under a carpet and simply forgotten as if it never happened. There are people like that who do things that are terrible and they never deal with it. They just pretend it didn't happen. That cannot happen. It's not something you ignore because it will haunt you and it torments you. You can't deny its existence. You can't excuse it as a mistake. You can't say it was simply an error or mental lapse or it's an acceptable action. You can't blame it on other people. You can say, well, it was my parents or my friends or my boss, circumstances, the government, and it's still a sin and you know it. You can't rename it. You can call it a disease or a preference. You can legalize it and legitimize it. You can try to explain it away, but it's still a sin and it still haunts you. And it has to be confessed. It has to be dealt with. It has to be recognized. It has to be repented of. It has to be completely forsaken. It has to be brutally dealt with. That way forgiveness can be received and healing can take place. That's how restoration is made possible. And that's what's happening here. We see Jesus restoring a fallen sheep. He does it because He loves him and He wants to heal him. Now, in verses 9 as well as verses 12 and 13 of the same chapter, we know that they're sharing a meal. This is what's taking place. And Jesus is breaking some bread and sharing a meal with them. He's giving them some fish that He had prepared. And this meal that they're sharing, they're around this campfire, if you will. They're on the seashore of Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. Well, I'd have to imagine, if I might read into this a bit, that they ate their meal and Jesus there ministering to them in silence. Have you ever had a meal with family that there was a tension in that meal? You ever have that? You know something's going to happen. It's Thanksgiving and Dad's mad. He just hasn't said anything, but it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. It's going to be between the mashed potatoes and the green beans, but it is going to happen. You know, something's going to be said. And you know that. And you're sitting there kind of at the dinner table and there's an issue. Dad's mad about something and you know, but when's it going to come out? And you know he's mad at you. And so everybody else is eating okay. It's you. And you're there and you're quiet because you did something really bad. Man, the family's pretty upset. Isn't it tense? Isn't it a little tense? Isn't it like, let's get this over with. Come on, beat me up. Let's just finish it. You know, get it done. You know, what do you have to say? Don't you ever have any feelings like that? Have you ever? I can't help but believe that the Apostle Peter's doing that. As he's eating his bread, in his tuna sandwich, if you will, as he's there eating this fish. And Jesus is there and his sin is before him. The sense of I have failed is all over him. It's all over him. Now the others had failed too, but the Apostle Peter had said, I will die for you, though all the others were to fail you. I will. He had gone out on the limb and gone much beyond what the others had said. He has to be feeling very tense at that moment. He has to be thinking, and the tension will steadily grow. There they are, alone with Jesus on the shore. And so what happens? Well, in verse 15, when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, I hate you. No, He didn't. Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? He said to him. Yes, Lord. You know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs. The silence is broken with a question. But the question is an interesting question. Do you love me more than these? What a way to deal with restoration, huh? He didn't say, Simon, I told you. I knew you would. You blew it, man. You saw me when I was being led and how I was all beaten up and bloodied up. And there you are at the enemy's campfire, denying that you even knew me. Man, I can't believe you did that. He didn't do that at all, did he? He didn't say anything. What did he do? He said, do you love me more than these? More than these what? Do you love me more than than these fish? Do you love me more than your fishing, your job, your occupation? Do you love me more than these kinds of things? Or do you love me more than you love your friendships and your job? Do you love me more than your friends? It could be a variety of things. Do you love me more than these? But I suspect that what he's saying here is he's saying, do you love me more than these men love me? In other words, it would seem right that he would go to the thing that he had boast about himself concerning. I love you more than these men. It's basically what he was saying when he had said in Mark, though all forsake you, I never will. In essence, what he was saying is, I love you more than these men love you. So Jesus' question would be obvious. Do you love me more than these? You had boasted that you did. You had boasted that you loved me more than them all. Now, what Jesus is doing is he's gently meeting him exactly where he is. He's confronting him, but is exposing him only to heal the pain that he might restore him. Simon, do you love me? Because loving Jesus is where healing and ministry always begins. People want to minister and they don't love him. Ministry always begins by loving him. And loving him is where the outflow of ministry comes from. You don't, in other words, go out and work for him to love him. You serve him because you love him. Marie could make me dinners for every night as she does for all of these years. But she making the dinners didn't make me love her. She made the dinners because she loves me. The dinners are actually just an expression of her love for me. I'm a big boy. I can make my own dinner if I want to. But I don't have to. Because she loves me and makes those dinners. But all the work that she's doing doesn't make me love her more. And it doesn't make her love me more. She does it, and she's done it faithfully for all of these years simply because out of the wellspring of love comes her service. When you love the Lord, then ministry comes. That's why Jesus would ask, do you love me? Because I don't want you out there sweating for me if there's no love involved. See, that's the difference between a relationship and a religion. People are getting into religion. They do all these good things because they think that that's showing the world and other people how religious they are. God doesn't require my sweat. What he wants is my heart. And out of my heart flows ministry. So he begins first with the question, do you love me? Interestingly, there's an interplay going on here with two different Greek words. Some of you already know this. Bear with me. In the Greek language, there are two words that are being translated here by the single English word. One word is agape and the other word is phileo. The word agape, Jesus says, Peter, do you agape me? The word agape is that total giving of myself love, self-sacrificial love. Do you have that kind of love? It's the love that God showed the world when Jesus died on the cross. God so loved the world, God had agape for the world. So he's saying, do you love me in a self-sacrificial, complete and total love? Do you love me? And what does the Apostle Peter say? Lord, I phileo you. The word phileo is where you get the word friendship from. Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. It's just a combination of Delphos and phileo, brotherly love. That's what it is. And so the word phileo speaks of a brother's love. It's a friendship love. And so Jesus says to him, do you have agape for me? And the Apostle Peter says to him, I have phileo for you. I have a friendship for you. Jesus said, do you love me so much that you would lay your life down for me? Saying, I love you as a dear brother and a close friend. But in that, and I want you to see Jesus' word, verse 15, he says, feed my sheep. Feed my babies is what he's saying. Feed my lambs. That word feed speaks of spiritually nourishing, tenderly caring for their spiritual needs. He's saying, tenderly care for my babies. You see, this is where it begins, loving me and loving others in your broken heart. So take care of the babies in the faith. Take care of the children in your care, is what he's saying. He's bringing them back into ministry, and it started with love. In verse 16, he says to him a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, tend my sheep.